Today I will be providing a step-by-step guide on how to embark on a fitness journey as a beginner, because believe it or not, I was once a beginner too. In fact, we are all beginners when we start. We all have to start somewhere, and it can be really challenging in today's day and age to find valuable information on how to approach these things with certainty. Because at least when I was coming up and trying to learn everything I could about resistance training and all sorts of training, the information out there was not very clear. There was a lot of pseudoscience, a lot of bro science, not really anybody just handing out solid factual data and telling me exactly what to do. So I had to kind of figure it out for myself. And along the way, I made many mistakes. So in today's video, I hope that I can make the pathway clear for all of you so that you don't make the same mistakes and end up wasting your time. So why should somebody start a fitness journey in the first place? Well, for starters, it is vital for emotional, physical, and mental health. The sayings about resistance training and cardio are extremely true when people are talking about it improving neuroplasticity, helping with age-related declines in both physical and mental health, and just feeling and looking better. I mean, for anybody that's struggling with low self-esteem due to their body or something like that, then a little bit of resistance training, a little bit of cardio, a little bit of eating right and sleeping right can go a long way and can totally transform somebody's body and make them look way different than they did in the start to a few years down the road. And it can drastically improve their self-confidence over time. It is also essential for longevity. It's no secret that as we get up there in age, we start dramatically losing muscle mass, and it just every daily activity becomes so much more difficult to perform. If you look at somebody that's 80 or 90, a lot of them have trouble just walking up and down the stairs or carrying grocery bags. But if you start today, and it doesn't really matter what age you are, if you start today and really get into it and be consistent with it, then by the time you're at that age, you're going to be moving around like you are now, hopefully, if you do everything right. So I think that there's really no downside to exercising. And in fact, it just feels incredible too. It is so good for your mood and well-being. I think it's important to understand the basics before you leap into anything. So under the category of exercise, there's basically two categories. There's aerobic and anaerobic training. Aerobic is more cardiovascular, or cardio, as you may have heard it coined, which is essentially just a workout for the heart. So you're doing, you can be doing long runs, so that's more zone 2 training, or you can do some backpacking or anything that really gets your heart rate up and your blood pumping for a number of minutes to an hour. And then on the other side of the coin, there is anaerobic training, which is more short bursts of power and speed and strength. For example, resistance training is anaerobic, plyometrics or jumping is anaerobic, high intensity interval training is anaerobic. These are all really fast twitch type of movements, and they are going to be more building strength and endurance and muscle along the way. So in short, it is important to be training both, because after all, we want to be as healthy as possible. But if your goal is more so building muscle, then you may find yourself more on the anaerobic side of the coin. But if your goal is to maybe just lose weight and be able to run longer and whatnot, then it may be on the aerobic side of the coin. Now, the first true point is going to be to assess or evaluate your starting point. So take a good look at both your history of physical activity and exercise. Maybe you used to run marathons or you used to compete in powerlifting, or maybe you have no physical activity experience or exercise experience whatsoever. That's okay. Take an inventory of that. Next, look at your outward physical appearance. Are you overweight and want to lose weight? Are you underweight and want to gain weight? Assess where you are both physically and what experience you have, and use that to assess your goals. And for assessing or setting your goals, it is important to stay realistic. I don't want anybody to be saying that they want to gain 100 pounds of muscle in the next year or something crazy like that. We need to be really realistic with our goal settings, or else we're just going to be setting ourselves up for failure. When I did my first bulking phase back in high school, I essentially wanted to reach 200 pounds. That was my goal weight in any amount of time frame or as quickly as I possibly could. And that just wasn't realistic, because what ended up happening was I just ended up gaining 20 pounds of fat and little to no muscle whatsoever. I basically just ate myself away until I reached that goal weight without taking into account how long these things can take. I wasn't being realistic with my goals. So let's say you're overweight and you're trying to do a cutting phase or lose some of that weight. It's important to set a realistic goal. For example, trying to lose 10 pounds over the course of a month or a month and a half is pretty realistic. That means that you would want to be probably cutting dramatically down on your calories, but it's definitely a realistic goal. On the flip side of that, if you're underweight and you're trying to gain weight and put on muscle, then gaining 10 pounds of muscle over the course of the next year, that's probably more of a more realistic goal. So make sure that your goals are realistic. And then what's next is you need these goals to be very trackable. So I like the analogy of losing weight or gaining weight, because you can track it on the scale over time. You can see your progress in not only the mirror, but on the scale. Now, the key aspect of attaining any goal in life is to transcend or make that goal into daily habits that you will do day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, over the course of the long haul. And the key part of this is that you are going to stick with it, and it is going to be incorporated into your daily life like brushing your teeth or showering is. You want these goals to become habits that you are doing every single day. So, for example, with trying to lose weight, for example, it's clear that you have to eat less food and intake less calories. So how are you going to do that? Well, I think that the easiest way is to create structured meal plans over the course of all 7 days. People meal prep for a reason. It's because then once they already have that food made, when, shit hits the fan for lack of a better term, they already have food at their disposal, healthy food that they can eat. So instead of going to McDonald's or somewhere else, they know that they already made this food. They know that they already cooked it, that they already bought it. They have it made. It's a part of the plan. It's written down in the calendar, and therefore they are going to eat that food instead of making the unhealthy decision. On the flip side of that, if you are trying to gain weight, put on muscle, you know that you need a lot of protein in your diet, and you know that you probably need to be eating in excess or more calories than your maintenance. And therefore, scheduling in certain meals at certain times a day. For example, I like to begin every single day with 60 grams of protein in the form of a protein shake. I haven't missed a day on that in years. It's because it's just a habit that's so ingrained in my life. As soon as I wake up, I chug water, I have a morning protein shake. It's hard for me not to do it now. So the core message of this, take those goals that you made, those realistic goals, and then bring them down and put them into a daily routine that you won't be skipping out on. Now, of course, this goes beyond just eating. You'd want to incorporate both resistance training and cardiovascular training, or, anaerobic and aerobic training into your daily routine. And as a beginner, you don't need to start off with training 6-7 days a week or anything like that. You could simply do like 3 full body sessions, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then incorporate some light cardiovascular training, maybe on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then maybe a high intensity interval training somewhere in there where you do some sprints or something like that. And that's already a pretty robust training schedule. It doesn't need to be that robust. Depending on your goals, you may want to increase the cardiovascular training and decrease the weight training. If you're trying to just put on muscle, then you may want to increase the resistance training and decrease the cardiovascular training. Whatever works for you and whatever fits into your schedule best. And most importantly, above all else, whichever one you're going to stick to consistently is going to be the best one for you. So without a doubt, proper consistency is the most important thing to be making progress in the gym. Without consistency, then it is going to be very, very difficult to make progress. Anybody that goes really, really hard in the gym for one day and then takes a month off, they're not making any progress whatsoever. Let's be real. It's the people that go in, day out, do, even just short workouts, and they're going to get way more out of it than the guy that just goes once a month. So whatever you need to do to be consistent, I think you should. For me, what has worked best is incorporating fitness into my identity. Once I really made it a priority of mine to work out essentially every day, is when I really started to become consistent. It's almost like you have to kill the person that you used to be to become the person that you want to be. And any bad habits that are getting in your way should also be eliminated. And that's kind of a part of shifting your identity. Somebody who works out all the time likely isn't going to be drinking and smoking all the time too. They're antagonistic. They don't go hand in hand. So if you're trying to be more fit and you want to, if you truly want to embark on this fitness journey, and I hope you are because you're watching this video, and meanwhile you have bad habits that are getting in the way of you achieving your goals, and you can't find the balance that you need to strike to have both, then consider eliminating those bad habits. That's essentially what I had to do. I tried for a very long time to have a balance between going out all the time and training and getting the most out of my fitness goals. But I found that I couldn't have both, so now I don't go out as much. I'll still go out and have a good time, but I incorporate that more sparingly into my schedule because I know who I want to be. A lot of people have difficulty staying on track because they have a lot of temptation and they're more prone to cheating on their meals and whatnot. And I think everybody struggles with this on a daily basis. It is really easy to backtrack and go back into old eating habits and just skip a workout or whatever. But I think that once you start seeing progress and you recognize how good it makes you feel, after you get over that little beginner's hump and you really start getting to the weeds of things, I think that it becomes much, much easier to stick to your program. Now, for me, it's much, much easier to stick to eating right because I know that if I eat terribly, then my sleep is going to suffer. I'm going to feel more lethargic. My workouts are going to suffer. It's almost just not worth it in some regards. However, there is a time and place to have cheat meals and stuff like that. But just recognize that, depending on the cheat meal and whatnot, it could set you back. And just evaluate whether that's worth it or not to you. Another challenge is just not getting injured. If you get injured, then there goes at least 6 months to years of hard work almost down the drain. Of course, there's muscle memory and things like that where you can get back to how you used to be very, very quickly, but you're still out of commission for a very long time. So really the name of the game here is to not get injured at all. So how do we prevent injury? Well, don't overdo it. Don't rush into anything that you are not comfortable with. And most importantly of all, make sure that you're warming up and doing a cool down. Now, this doesn't mean static stretching before your workouts. You should be doing more of a dynamic warm up just to get the blood flow moving and stuff like that. Then afterwards, do a small cool down. Now, that could involve static stretching or just going for a light jog, sauna. I like to use sauna, heat exposure, as well as cold exposure in the mornings as well. So recovery activities and then preventative activities are of the utmost importance. Now, the last challenge is just fitting exercise and eating right and all of that jazz into the average person's schedule. And I know how difficult it can be to have a job or two and still be consistent with my training and things like that, because after all, after like a 10-hour day of work, the last thing you want to do is pick up a heavy barbell or go on a 5-mile run. It's really the last thing that you want to do. But I think that the best way to really make sure that you're staying consistent and fitting this into a schedule is to be flexible. Don't be super rigid. If your workout needs to be pushed back a few hours, then so be it. And if you need to have a light day, have a light day. And if for some reason you need to take a day or two off, that's okay. Just make sure that you are not taking your eye off the prize. Just make sure that you're not taking off too long for no reason. Stay flexible, try and incorporate it into your daily life, into your daily routine, and try and be consistent. And remember that we're going for the long game here. Fitness is a lifestyle. You can't just expect to work out for a few years or a few months, get some gains, and then keep them for the rest of your life. That's not how it works. This has to be a constant thing that you are doing for the long haul, and that's why it's very important to love it. Okay, so I hope that you guys have derived some valuable knowledge out of today's discussion, and I hope that it helps you along your very own fitness journey, and I wish you the best of luck.